Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. So today we're going to go over terrorist attacks once again to cover some more revealing details about the characters, the terrorists that committed these attacks. So let's get started. So again, we're going to start this morning off with the events that unfolded on New Year's Day. In New Orleans, a radicalized U.S. Army veteran by the name of Bahar Jabbar drove a truck inside of a crowd on Bourbon Street, resulting in 15 fatalities. The victims ranges from the ages of 18 years of age, which was an aspiring nurse, to a 37-year-old father of two. And authorities discovered ISIS affiliations and pipe bombs in Jabbar's vehicle, leading the FBI to treat this as an act of terrorism. Now, one of our late stories here this morning will also be about a gentleman who had over 150 bombs created, homegrown bombs created within his home in Virginia. But nonetheless, this story here is breaking not only because of the terrorist attacks, but because of the first initial reports at the FBI. Now, I don't recall the FBI correspondent here in this picture as you see here. And let me just blow that up for you guys. Hopefully everyone can see that. Now, first and foremost, a lot of the quote unquote white supremacists came out, and this is the terms that people use to be very, very racist. I'm just going to let the cat out the bag. They stated that she was a DEI hire. Now, initially, when information comes out, a different federal, state, local organization has a spokesperson. So they're getting the information from respectable news informant, intelligence agencies from their departments. And they're reporting it as they was instructed to do. But they stated that she was a DEI hire because of her hair, because of her nose ring. And of course, anytime there's a black person, if you notice, they're using the racial slur of DEI. Now, I'm just going to say this. Not every single one who's hired, no matter the race nor ethnic, is a DEI hire. That's first and foremost. So when people say this, when people are in high places or high status or work for government entities and they have dark colored, melanated hue complexion, people in some demographics, in some ethnics, and some ideologies say DEI. And that is to separate how some people may look at a certain demographics than others. I don't want to get into the history of Black Americans in the countries and all the contributions that we've made. Not that we've been a part of every single war, every single major conflict in America. Not that. We won't talk about the endless of innovations and inventions that we've created, because this DEI thing just speaks to the old racial slur that black people are not intelligent, that we're not capable of critically thinking, that we're not this and we're not that. So I won't go on a rampage because this story is not about that, but I just hate to keep hearing over and over again. In every race and every demographic, every ethnic, there's smart people, there's unintelligent people, there's all sorts of people from all across the globe. So I won't go there this morning, but nonetheless, I wanted to cover that because I'm just getting tired of the DEI hire, and I know you guys are going to continue on because that's all you know. That's how you get your morning coffee. But I want to make attention to some of the people who lost their lives during this terrorist attack. This is one of the gentlemen here. His name is Reggie Hunter. Here's another young lady who was the nurse. Okay. Nakira Shana Deducts, 18. Hubert, and excuse me as I'm butchering some of their names, but he was killed while celebrating the New Year as well. All of these people was on Bourbon Street. And here was the terrorist here, and we all know him as Bahar Jabbar. And they just had a slew of people who unfortunately lost their lives to this terrorist attack. A lot of people lost their lives to this terrorist attack. Tiger Beach was described as being full of energy and full of life. It states here that the vehicle was spotted in Baytown, Texas on December 31st, heading towards New Orleans. So he drove from Texas to New Orleans to do this terrorist attacks. And they have all sorts of, you guys check out the U.S. Sun. You see they have all the information. You see no permanent barriers, okay, but you do see law enforcement here. What else do we have? Any outlying details? We just have a lot of people, unfortunately, who lost their lives because of this man's terrorist act. Mama 4, Nicole Perez, were also killed in the attack. This gentleman here, Auburn University graduate Drew Dalpin, was also killed. So again, it amazes me how we have such tragic events, and those people who are part of the white supremacist nation will only like to point out the ill-advised information from an FBI correspondent who's Black. That's the country, unfortunately, that we live in. And I just wish that if everyone's talking about, if we just stop talking about race, then racism will go away. Unfortunately, I know this and you know this, that it simply won't that, because we have to understand that America was constructed and built on racism. It was constructed and built on the backs of Black enslaved people. So until there's legislation and laws to protect those things and instill those things, then you're going to always have the ideology of people stating certain things, whether it be, oh, that was an affirmative action hire or a DEI hire. Look at the woke. I won't go there this morning, but I just wanted to wake people up of how we're turning something very tragic into misnomers about race that is not significant to the loss of life that came from many different demographics, whether it be white, Black, and Hispanic, as well as we just saw of people just enjoying the new year. Now, also, Jabbar, he was a 42-year-old Army veteran who was divorced 3 times and was in a failing real estate business. He served from the Army from 2007 to 2020, and including a deployment to Afghanistan. And then he later transitioned to the Army Reserve. Now, again, despite his tragic actions, those people who are close to him, his friends and family, expressed shock, noting that no prior signs of radicalization of distress. And again, here's Bahar Jabbar. Trump came out and stated that he believes that we are the laughingstock of the world at the New Orleans terror attack, as well as the Tesla Cybertruck explosion. Because he stated that in some of his responses, that the current administration labeling the United States as a laughingstock due to the perceived failures in national security. He contributed that these incidents to weak, ineffective, and virtually non-existent leadership, and emphasized the need for stronger border policies. Trump has announced plans for a major rally in Washington, D.C. on January 19th, focusing on border security and crime reduction just a day before his inauguration. I don't think these two really have any conjoining factors. What do I mean by that? Well, Bahar Jabbar, age 42, was divorced 3 times. He was in financial hardship. He's been deployed. He was radicalized, supposedly by ISIS. Well, he was an American citizen, and he served from 2007 to 2020. That has nothing to do with immigration, unless he came over here as an immigrant and became an American citizen. But what if he came over here on an H-1B visa, which Donald Trump and Elon Musk is for? Again, this is why I told the line very carefully. This is why a lot of you may be conservative, right-wing Republicans. Some of you may be left, liberal, Democrats. This is why I'm just looking at both sides, even the middle. I'm not in the middle either. I'm just looking at the truth. But these are not combined in any way. Then the second terrorist attack by the Green Beret active Army Green Beret, he drove up a Tesla truck. And I want to show you some graphics here very quickly. I'm taking my time today, family. I'm taking my time today. because there's just a lot to cover when it comes to these stories, but I want to show you this very quickly. Copy. Copy. Now that was the cyber truck explosion, and several people were injured, but there has been no reports that anyone lost their lives behind this particular terrorist attack. So I don't believe there was any weak administration of immigration and border security. These were not illegal immigrants. Unfortunately, these two guys were part of the United States Army. Now, the Tesla truck explosion, Army Green Beret was found with a gunshot wound to his head, which they believe was self-inflicted. They don't believe anyone had the opportunity to inflict this gun wound other than himself. And the crazy thing about this particular story is that they're stating that MAGA impressed by Cybertruck bomb after it emerged that he's a Trump supporter. Now, I'm not inclined to believe this, because we can't just group MAGA, okay? Because when you start to have a group of people to adopt a name or an ideology, do I believe that all of them are operating with the same ideology? No. There's a lot of people who are probably MAGA who is absolutely against this, because again, this was a gentleman, and I can recall his name, Matthew Livensberger. He detonated a Tesla Cybertruck packed with explosives outside of the Trump International Hotel. And again, injuring several people. But both incidents, will either be New Orleans or in Las Vegas, where this incident occurred, believe that there are terrorist attacks, and they're trying to see if they were linked in any sort of way. And don't forget that Matthew Livensberger was active duty Green Beret, whereas though Bahar Jabbar was HRIT, but he was an Army veteran who stopped serving in 2020. So yeah, when we talk about MAGA, when we talk about Republicans, when we talk about conservatives, I believe there is a great mixture of different people. And even inside the conservative party, even inside with the Republican Party, not everyone has the same mindset. They may believe or they may agree to the majority of the policies of the Republican Party, but not all of them have the same ideology. I would not denote or demean them in that sort of manner, because that would just be idiotic in my opinion. And I know a lot of people tend to do that for whatever reason. But yeah, but Trump says that America's a laughingstock after this. And I disagree, because other people have had terrorist attacks in their countries as well. But the fact of the matter is, everybody hates America because we're the freest, most prosperous, powerful country in the world. And when you're at the top, the only way for you to go is down. But as one, I don't know if it was an Asian or English or African proverb said, when you come for the king, don't miss. So we have these very isolated, siloistic sort of attacks. And unfortunately, this is the year of completion. It represents the number 9. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, because this is year 2025. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 5 is 9. But we'll get into that. If you're kind of spiritual, if you understand what I'm getting to when it comes to the 9 being, the completion, because 10 is rebirth. But nonetheless, now in political honors, and I know I have a small depiction of Liz Cheney here, President Joe Biden, I think this was a slight towards Donald Trump. President Joe Biden awarded Presidential Citizens Medal to former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Cheney was recognized for her role in the congressional investigation of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, Capitol protest, Capitol attack, however you want to, label it. This award highlights her dedication to upholding democratic principles despite facing significant political backlash within her party. And as I stated before, and I'll say this again, Liz Cheney knock on Joe Biden's door and asks for a pardon, a preemptive pardon of your behavior, the same way Nixon received. Because as soon as Donald Trump get into office, because he's really been beating his drum, he may come after you, and there may be nothing you can do unless you have a pardon of sorts. So again, I think it's imperative that she get that as well. Okay. Now, Elon Musk has garnered support from several Democrat lawmakers for his plans to enhance government efficiency. As co-leader of the newly established Department of Government Efficiency, Musk proposes reduction in defense spending, healthcare costs, and bureaucratic processes. While some Democrats back his agenda to cut wasteful spending, others express concerns over potential reductions to essential programs like Medicare and the EPA. Now, in my opinion, when it comes to Medicare or with the EPA, certain programs should not be cut. They should not be abolished. They should not be revoked. The spending part of it, should it be reduced? Again, you will have to go through a fine line to make sure there's no fluff. Okay, there's no stash funds that the government hiding to fatten their pockets or vacation trips. But no, we definitely need the Environmental Protection Agency. And that's for all Americans. That's for people living everywhere. You have these large corporations dealing in chemicals, dealing in biological agents, dealing in radiological substance and materials. And if you don't have the EPA to keep people on check of just dumping things in little small waterways and ponds that will seep inside of the ground and erode and deteriorate farmlands. Now, and this is what people don't understand. Water not only dilutes, but it becomes pollutant when you're trying to dilute it as well. And there's some chemical agents that replicate because of water. It becomes even stronger. What happens now, water, if it's a pond or a lake and river within inside the United States of America, it would eventually seep and soil you inside of the dirt. And then that will start to deteriorate plant life and farms and food. It will eventually get to the American people where it becomes very, very harmful. So we do need government agencies, okay? Even with them, they need oversight to ensure that large corporations, people who are dealing with dangerous materials and chemicals, that they're doing the right thing. And here's the thing. At one point in time in America, when they found large corporations dumping chemicals and toxic waste, they would just find them. And very few times would people be incarcerated. I think we can encourage people to do the right thing when you start putting prison time in front of that fine. Like, yeah, we're going to fine you and your organization, but you're facing 10 to 20 years because you knowingly dumped this because you didn't want to dispose of this in the correct manner, because it would cost you an extra $500 to $2 million. However, but these things do need oversight. They do need government funding to have organizations like the EPA. And Medicare, we already know what that represents for people who are struggling handling healthcare costs. I believe that's a need as well. Should it be cut? Again, we will have to go through fine-tooth comb to understand if there's any government slush funds that they've been fattening their pockets with. Now, the United States has imposed sanctions on two groups associated with Iran and Russia for disinformation campaigns targeting American voters ahead of the 2024 election. The Treasury Department revealed that these organizations attempted to sow divisions among Americans through fake videos, news, stories, and social media posts aiming to undermine the trust in the U.S. electoral process. Yeah, anytime that outside countries use propaganda to influence American voters to sway one way or another, it's for that country's personal economic interests, whether it be warfare, economic, strategic, in a manner where it can influence Americans to go one way or another. That's why a lot of people there was a lot of Russian bots during the first election with Donald Trump 2016. And again, if there's smoke, there's fire. If there's dots, you have to connect them. And there has been verifiable proof that on some accords, this is absolutely some of the way that a lot of these countries have been doing to influence American voters. And again, that says a lot about us. And I tell people, if you're getting your news from a very unbiased source like Blacklogic, where I don't have a play on either side. I'm just for the American people. And that's what people don't understand. Yeah, I have a black perspective on some things because, yeah, there's still racism in this country. I don't know why people saying there's not racism in this country prove me wrong. But I'm dialing back from that with these particular news stories this morning because I kind of covered it early on. But now AP News kind of broke this story initially about a Virginia man who was discovered with a massive cache of homemade bombs and firearms in his home. According to authorities, the discovery included not just weapons, but also bomb-making materials that could have caused significant damage had they been deployed. Law enforcement officials described the scene as a potential disaster waiting to happen. And this wasn't some random find. A tip-off led law enforcement to this man's home where a detailed investigation was already underway. Sources close to the case say that this was part of a larger operation to track illegal weapon distribution networks. But the question remains, how was this stockpile built under the radar? Now, a lot of people believing that this man, this Virginia man who had, 150 homemade bombs was part of a white national group, AKA neo-Nazi, or by the way of skinheads, that they were planning a larger attack and they're trying to find any associates or affiliates that could have been a part of this. But that's the question that still remains. Now, this story taps into broader concerns. Homemade bombs and firearms aren't just weapons. They're tools of chaos in the wrong hands. This case underscores the vulnerabilities in our monitoring system and raises critical questions about how we can prevent similar situations. And I've heard some rhetoric on the line, like maybe he was just practicing how to make bombs. No one does that. No one's like, you know what, I'm just going to practice how to make 150 bombs and I'm just going to dispose of them later. I'm going to render them, inert so they don't explode. No, that's not how things go. There's a reason why a person at his home is making 150 bombs and having all the other sorts of weapons. That are tall tale signs that are large indicators of a terrorist attack, whether it be domestic or it could be a foreign entity. That's first and foremost. So again, I thank you guys for joining me here this morning. And last but not least, I want to share with you again the power of 9. If you guys will bear with me, I want you guys to hear this.
Year 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. In numerology, the number 9 represents completion, transformation, and releasing what no longer serves you. It's the perfect time to align your subconscious with new beginnings. This is the year to let go of old patterns, clear the slate, and make space for growth and abundance. This is the time that you can reprogram your mind to align with the transformative energy of 2025. Start 2025 by repeating these powerful affirmations daily. I release the past and embrace my future. I am open to endless possibilities. I welcome growth, clarity, and abundance into my life. 2025 is a night.
So yeah, I don't know if you know the importance or the spiritual of numerology in your life and how that 9 is the highest single digit number indicating a life of learning and growth. It also represents transformation. It also represents completion. It also represents a paradigm shift. So however that means to you, hopefully you find meaning in the number 9 and the power of a paradigm shift altogether in your personal life and what that means to you. Thank you for joining me here this morning. This is Blacklogic.